Voters 3-1 say the national media is not aggressive enough reporting Joe Biden's sexual assault allegations. When you look at another poll, a new poll out shows 26% now of Democrats want Joe Biden to be replaced because of this. 26% say he's got to go. So let's break this poll down here for a second before we get into the facts. 61% of Democrats believe that Biden appeared very credible or somewhat credible during his interview with Morning Joe, where he denied the allegations. 61% of Democrats somewhat credible. Only 61%. When you have 40% of the American Democratic Party saying he's not credible on this, do you have a viable candidate? Honestly, 26% of the Democratic Party would move to replace Biden after watching the video. 61% say they found his denial at least somewhat credible and should remain the nominee. The number includes 28% of Democratic women. Only 28% say that he should remain. Really? Younger women voters are the most likely to want Biden replaced as the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party. 40% of voters under 45 agreeing that he should be replaced. 40% under 45. And 15% of older voters say he should be replaced. Among general voters, so this would include the Republicans and the independents. If you don't get independents, you don't win. Among general voters, only 41% say they found his denial somewhat credible or very credible, versus 38% that say it's not credible at all. This is going to be a problem because he's badly polarized on this. And, you know, when you have two candidates and they're both polarized, you don't usually make a change. You're like, I'm not going to change horses. I know what this guy is. And I may not like this guy, but I know what this guy is. And we're fine. If you don't believe that, you know, we're fine under Donald Trump, well, then you're going to vote for really probably anybody. But when you have two guys and one is Joe Biden and it's of the Democratic Party, it exposes the Democratic Party for who they are. It exposes the media for who they are. And it would expose you. I think there is 25 to 50% of the voting public, 50 is too high, 25 to 35% of voters in America that would go, you know what, I'm not going to sell me out. It bothers me, and will pass on him. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I think people will overlook a lot when casting a vote here. A lot of people have their minds made up on Trump. You know, this is a pretty partisan country at this moment. You know, we've been even seeing evidence lately of people coming out and saying, I believe Tara Reade and her assault accusation, but I'm still going to be voting for Joe Biden, which is, what are you saying about yourself when you're saying, hey, you know who would be okay for me to endorse as a candidate? A rapist. That is it's a hell of a standard to set for yourself.
Yeah, if you believe, what Donald Trump said, you know, on that bus years ago was really offensive. But that was really sick, over-the-top guy talk. Now, that doesn't mean that did he, you know, he said that's what he did, but, you know,
right.
Guys say a lot of stuff. Yeah. But this is the accusation is from a woman that Joe actually did that, and then some.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's a real problem.
I know of zero Trump supporters who voted for Donald Trump that believe those allegations that he committed sexual assault. That you might have this idea that, oh, well, they're fooling themselves into believing Trump. That's fine, but at least they're doing the work on that. Democrats at this point are like, he's probably a rapist, but I don't really like Donald Trump, so I'm going to vote for the rapist. And I think
with Donald Trump, it was I don't like the way he talks. I don't like what he said. But it's not the allegation that was believable of what Joe Biden is being accused of.
Yeah,
there is a difference here.
There were allegations against Trump, as the left likes to point out in these moments. But, look, you have to do your own work and try to believe what you believe. I think the issue here as a candidate, as you get close to an election, is you can't have major reasons for people to not vote for you in this environment. And the Democrats, they'll deny this all day, but the Democrats already have the idea in their head that Joe Biden doesn't seem capable of doing this job. That is already there. They don't think Donald Trump is capable either. So they're able to hold on to their vote for Biden right now. But if you start piling these things on top of each other, he's incompetent. He may have actually sexually assaulted a woman and now is doing all the things that we said were terrible. All this scrutiny about her character, all these questions about her claims, all of these things that are going on now that you have set the standard that these things should not even be allowed in polite society as of 2 weeks ago. And now you're having to justify and backtrack on all these things that you said. People hate doing that. And so they're trying to find their little pathway into continuing to be able to justify this vote for Biden. Right. And if you keep piling things like this on top of each other, they're not going to be able to find it.
Yeah, well, they will find another reason. Nobody wants to admit that the standard that they've been holding up that has destroyed people's lives is the wrong standard. Nobody wants to be that wrong. Only the real brave will. So they will find another reason. And it could just be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I mean, if you look at, I have the 8 accusers in front of me. You have Amy Cole helping run a reception for about 50 people in 2008. Biden arrived. They introduced him to her. He leaned in, squeezed her shoulders, and delivered a compliment about her smile, holding her for a beat too long. Okay. I think he's just kind of a creepy dude. That's not assault. Number 7, Amy Lapos, former congressional aide, Democratic political activist, claimed that during the 2009 political fundraiser in Greenwich, he touched her inappropriately. She said it wasn't sexual, but he grabbed me by the head. He put his hand around my neck and pulled me in to rub noses with me. When he was pulling me in, I thought he was going to kiss me on the mouth. I never filed a complaint, to be honest, because it was the vice president and I'm a nobody. Wow, is that a problem? Caitlin Caruso said 4 years ago, the age of 19, survivor of sexual assault, spoke at an event on sexual assault, University of Las Vegas, when Biden was attending. After she shared her experience of sexual assault, Biden rested his hand on her thigh. Even though she squirmed in her seat to show her discomfort, he hugged her just a little too long. It doesn't even really cross your mind that such a person would dare perpetrate harm like that, she said. These are supposed to be the people that you can trust. Okay, so again, just inappropriate and possibly just a creepy dude, but not sexual assault.
Also consistent with each other. Right, like all these claims
all of these
are very consistent.
Yeah, and all of the pictures, of him sniffing hair and saying really creepy things to girls. But that, again, is you have to make the decision. Is that just an old man because this is his excuse. Look, I grew up in a different age, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. Even if I buy that, Grandpa, you can't continue to do that. When everybody had somebody in their family growing up, I mean, depending on your age, if you're at least my age, you had somebody growing up that was, older in the 60s and the 70s, and they were still talking about coloreds, or whatever. And They may not have had any malice. It's just the world they grew up in. And at some point you were like, Grandpa, stop saying that. You got to stop saying that, and this time Grandpa's going to be the president of the United States. And we keep saying to him, hey, stop hugging people, rubbing noses with them and saying really creepy things to girls. He just won't stop. That's the problem. So then you have a former White House intern. She said she was there in 2013. She was trying to exit the basement of the West Wing when she was asked to step aside. Biden approached her, shook her hand, and introduced himself. During the encounter, she said, Biden put his hand on the back of my head and pressed his forehead to my forehead and said, what a pretty girl. Oof. Grandpa, stop. Lucy Flores wrote an essay. She was working for Biden in 2014. Just before speeches, we were ushered to the side of the stage where we were lined up for introduction. I was taking deep breaths and preparing myself to make my case to the crowd. I felt two hands on my shoulders. I froze. Why is the vice president of the United States touching me? I felt him get closer to me from behind. He leaned further in and inhaled my hair. I was mortified. I thought to myself, I didn't even wash my hair today, and the vice president is smelling it. And also, what in the actual F? Why is he doing this? She said. My brain couldn't process what was happening. I was embarrassed. I was shocked. I was confused. Then you have the next accuser, Sophie. Sophie was one of 50 sexual assault survivors. She appeared on stage with Lady Gaga at the Oscars, blah, 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 when met and heard about her, her experiences. He responded by clasping her hands and leaning down to place his forehead against hers. The moment was photographed and went viral. She said he just crossed the boundary into my personal space at a very sensitive moment. He emphasized that he wanted to connect with people, and of course that's important. But then again, all of our interactions and friendships are a two-way street. Too often it doesn't matter how the woman feels. Okay, so all of those are things that you could dismiss. You could just say, okay, Grandpa, stop it. You could dismiss that. But those things added on top of what Tara Reade said and some of the other accusers now that are coming out, because there's a couple of other, that 14-year-old girl whose, I think, mother said, no, it was the wrong year, maybe. But remember, facts don't even matter. They didn't even know where the house was or anything else with what's her name on Kavanaugh. They had nothing. They didn't know the date. They didn't know the year. This 14-year-old girl said she was really humiliated in lockstep with the others. Tara Reade is the only one that steps out and is out of the norm to where it's an actual assault. And it's a bad description of an assault. Now, the media won't tell you both sides of this story. They won't look at this honestly and say, okay, so who is Tara Reade? What are the conditions that have to be met, to be credible? Who's Joe Biden and was he there? All of these things. We've done our homework, and I can't give you an answer because I wasn't there, but I can give you both sides in an honest way so you can decide, because nobody in the media is doing that. That's tonight, 9 o'clock, only on Blaze TV. You can find Blaze TV on Pluto TV. You can watch it live there at 9 o'clock. You can also, that's free, you can also watch it on our YouTube page at 9 o'clock. But if you want to watch it at your own convenience and live, blazetv.com/Glenn, $30 discount on the year subscription, and that ends next week. So join us now.